Hi everybody, welcome to today's video. I'm really excited to do today's video because, we never know. There's so many myths out there. What's true, what's false, what's real, what hasn't been changed, what has been changed. We're gonna dive into some of the top cholesterol myths, some of the top sugar myths, all the things that we think are true that I'm actually gonna share with you are false. For those that are new, hello and welcome as always. For those that are veterans and often watch this channel, hello again, guys. So oftentimes in practice, I'm connecting with someone, I'm meeting them maybe for the first time, taking notes, and I hear something that makes me go, what? What do you believe? And so I thought it would be funny to actually share with you guys, and also educational, the things that are really, really, really dated and really false in terms of what we know to be true. We are debunking health myths today, so stay tuned for today's video. All right, so we have notes. Of course, I made notes because I have a lot to remember, and we're gonna start with one of the most common ones, that if you have high cholesterol in your blood lipid profile, you should not consume cholesterol-rich foods like eggs, fatty meats, butter, oils. That is oftentimes what people believe. They're like, oh, I don't eat eggs, I have high cholesterol, I don't have steak, I don't have meat, I don't eat things with oil. Wrong. Wrong town, wrong turn. That is so false. Cholesterol in your diet does not raise your cholesterol in your bloodstream. What does raise your cholesterol in your bloodstream more than probably the other two factors we'll talk about is high carbohydrate diet. So carbohydrate rich diets cause the liver to actually overproduce cholesterol. It's not the fatty substance that you're eating that are causing the cholesterol. It's the fatty substance with the carbohydrates. It's the carbs that are the concern, not the egg yolks. Now, a lot of times when people are misguided with this, especially for my males that are coming in that are diabetic, they're on pharmaceuticals, they have very bad lipids, their triglycerides are high, their total cholesterol is elevated, their HDL is low. Often clinically indicated, I do recommend ketogenic diets. And so they look at me like, what? I can't have any of the foods that you're recommending. And a lot of times in the beginning phases, it's a really big struggle to get people to feel comfortable enough to know, trust the process. And I work very intimately with nutrition. And I do see these changes happening where ketogenic diets really work nicely to actually lower blood lipids. It's not cholesterol in your food. So if you are like, I don't eat eggs, please look elsewhere because that is not the driving force behind it. Two places that you probably need work on is your liver. Okay, your liver produces about 1.5 liters a day of cholesterol. That's a lot of cholesterol if you kind of measure out 1.5 liters. And another place that we actually produce cholesterol is in our digestive bacteria. Most often what's happening for people is if it's not coming from the diet, which is the carbohydrate rich foods creating high cholesterol, it's likely coming from organ stress, which would be liver and gut stress. Those are two places that people oftentimes end up spewing or dumping cholesterol products from their body. Of course, there are genetic factors. Of course, just by default, some people's genetics, as they code for the cholesterol, are skewed so that they have high cholesterol. But please, please, please stop thinking that the eggs and the egg yolks and the meat are actually causing your high cholesterol. They are not. They are not. The next myth that I hear is people, obviously, that want to lose weight think that fat makes them fat. Fat does not make you fat. It's high carbohydrate and high sugar with fat that can make you fat. Now, what happens is that when we talk about a weight perspective, we can talk about macros, which are protein, carbs, and fats. Those are the building blocks of your tissue. Sometimes we talk about calories, not always, because calorie counting doesn't work when people have metabolic dysfunction. So for example, a lot of times people are saying, well, I'm just gonna drop my calories and I'll lose weight, right? No, especially not if you're dealing with thyroid dysfunction, hypothyroidism, if you're dealing with stagnation in your liver, metabolic syndrome. Those are all conditions that make your organs not process things as effectively or as efficiently. So the food that you consume doesn't necessarily have that much of an impact on dropping your body weight because there's an inflammatory process happening. Whenever there's inflammation, that has to be addressed in conjunction with dietary changes, because often people say, I'm sitting down to a plate of ice cubes and I'm drinking water and I'm not losing anything. What's going on? What's going on is that your body's not ready to enter into a place of weight loss because of other problems in the background, like adrenal stress, like cortisol production in too high amounts, like irritation to the pancreas. There's so many factors that actually are involved, but a lot of people think that fat makes them fat. If that was true, why do ketogenic diets help for weight loss? So I would encourage you to just think about that, play with that. So if people on keto diets, which the primary fuel source is fat is the primary macro, how are they losing 20, 30 pounds? If they're eating egg yolks and fatty foods and olive oils and things that contain high fat, it's because in the absence of carbohydrate, fat burns fat. Only in the absence of carbohydrate, fat burns fat. Now, yes, from a total energy expenditure perspective, calories do matter to some capacity because you cannot take in more than you actually expend. That will cause weight gain. But please, we blame fat as the culprit. And if I had to pick a macro that was actually the culprit, it's high carbohydrate rich diets that actually create weight gain or adipose gain. And that's a hard thing for people to give up in terms of bread and pasta and even fruit. Fructose is a form of carbohydrate. So do not be fooled. Fat doesn't make you fat. Okay. Catching up on sleep. I just need to catch up on my sleep. I haven't been sleeping. I got 5 hours. I got 4 hours. This weekend is coming. I'm going to just catch up on my sleep. Doesn't work that way. Sleep is a rhythmic process. Sleep has a diurnal variation. Sleep is a chemical process that happens, a hormonal process that happens. There's a lot of factors that go into your sleep cycle. You cannot ignore your sleep and sleep 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, and then sleep 10 hours and feel rejuvenated, because it's all based on a rhythm, a circadian rhythm. And so a lot of times people think that that's healthy to just sleep on the weekends or just make up for the lost sleep. And that's very, very false. You do want to honor your sleep schedule. I'm not so concerned with the actual amount that you sleep, but more so the quality. The quantity is not as important, but just the fact that you're sleeping and it feels rejuvenating. It feels like when you wake up, you're actually awake. That's more what I care about. But I hear people say that. They're like, I'm just going to catch up this weekend. That's not the way it works. It's kind of like saying, why don't I just eat all my calories for the week right now? I'll just eat all of them on Monday, and that way I won't have to eat Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. No, that's not the way it works. Same thing with food. Kind of equate the sleep pattern and schedule to how you eat food-wise. There is a process. There is a rhythm that has to happen. There is an expenditure. And there's all these kind of hormones that affect our sleep cycle and our wake cycle and our reticular activating system. And there's a lot that goes into it. Okay, so kind of think of that analogy. Coffee giving energy. So a lot of people think, oh, I have to have my coffee. I have to have my coffee. It's going to give me energy. And then they're also like, I'm exhausted all the time. So why are all my coffee drinkers really, really tired? Because coffee gives you a short boost of energy. Actually, the long term, coffee does deplete the adrenal glands of specific vitamins and nutrients that they need. And the adrenal glands, think of them as the long-term investors of energy. Caffeine is quick. It's a short, quick compound. There are benefits to coffee. I'm not going to say caffeine, but there are benefits to caffeine and coffee to some capacity. But we are reliant on it for energy, and yet we're still exhausted. And a lot of people that are like, but I can drink coffee and still pass out. I drink coffee late at night and I'm fine. It's because you're sensitized, or desensitized, I should say, to it, that it doesn't bother you anymore. That doesn't mean it's okay for you, because you still are irritating those adrenal glands. And so what I'd encourage you guys to actually think about is the long-term investment of your energy systems, which means, am I doing things that are going to be productive to my energy, not just right now in the moment, but later tonight, tomorrow, next week? That's more important, to be truthful. And the way that you get long-term energy is obviously through adrenal gland support. That's one way that we can balance out increasing the energy of the body. So be mindful that if you're a coffee consumer and that you feel like you're just drinking, thinking that you're giving yourself energy, but you have to have 3-4 cups a day, you're actually giving yourself kind of quick energy in the moment, but you're depleting your energy long term. So it's kind of like a Band-Aid solution. I'm not saying don't have coffee. I'm not saying don't have caffeine. We obviously don't want to give recommendations for like cookie cutter approaches, but it is mindful to know that, oh, maybe that's actually not serving me and benefiting me as much as I think it is. Synthroid, Armor, Cytomel, Naturethroid fixes Hashimoto's. It doesn't, you guys. This is I can make a whole video about this. I probably would need a whiteboard to explain the mechanism of action. And what I want to share with you guys, because if you are dealing with thyroid dysfunction, that's Hashimoto's. There is a difference between Hashimoto's, we'll call this one Hashimoto's, and hypothyroid. You can have both. You can have individual. So you can have both. So for example, this might make more sense. Somebody can be hypothyroid from Hashimoto's because that's the most common cause of hypothyroidism. Somebody can just be hypothyroid, and somebody could be normal thyroid but have Hashimoto's. There's actually 3 possibilities. So a lot of times people come to see me and they're like, well, I'm taking Synthroid, I'm taking the pharmaceuticals, and it hasn't done anything to my antibody load. It will not do anything to your antibody load. It doesn't do anything to your antibody load. It only gives you exogenous thyroid hormone, depending on the different versions. So you're getting T3 or T4, triiodothyronine. You can either be getting 1 or 2 versions or a combination formula of the 2. That's if you have low thyroid hormone from just thyroid production dropping with your hormones. But this is a really big thing for you guys to understand. It doesn't stop my body's attack of my thyroid, because that's the Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is different than hypothyroid in the sense that my body, when I have Hashimoto's, is choosing to attack itself. And often it's induced from viral load. Epstein-Barr virus is the known virus that causes hypothyroidism that is created from the Hashimoto's. Or maybe someone's T3 and T4 are totally normal, but they have antibodies. They have thyroid peroxidase antibodies. They have anti-TPO antibodies. Why would they give Synthroid? Why would you give thyroid medication that doesn't stop the autoimmune process from happening, or it doesn't stop the attack? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I work with a lot of pharmacists that come to see me as patients, and they understand this mechanism of action. A lot of times as consumers or as people just kind of using different doctors, we don't always realize that that's the case. And so a lot of times people, when I'm, intaking them and hearing about their health history, they're like, well, I'm on Synthroid for my Hashimoto's, and I want to go like, what? And then I have to draw it out. I have to get the whiteboard out and explain, okay, I want to explain this. And I'm not judging anybody for not knowing this. How would you know this? You go to the doctor because you trust them, right? You trust that the provider you're working with is going to be the right person to guide you. I'm not knocking anybody, but I'm just saying that when you look at the pathophysiology, patients come to me and they're like, my antibodies are going up and up and up and up and up, although my thyroid hormones look good. What do I do there? Medication is only giving you hormone. It's not fixing the underlying autoimmune process. They are 2 very separate and can be connected integrative processes. So I just want to share that with you guys, that if you're taking pharmaceuticals for your thyroid, little side note there, that it's not stopping the autoimmune process. And the autoimmune process is a very big concern, because as you have attack to the thyroid gland, you can develop tissue changes in the gland. You can develop nodules, you can develop a goiter to some capacity depending on what's going on. You can develop inflammation, vocal changes could happen, because right around the thyroid gland lives a recurrent laryngeal nerve. It's a nerve that's controlling our voice. A lot of times with thyroid stress, people say my voice has shifted, or I'm hoarse, I'm having sore throats, I'm getting laryngitis frequently, I have lymphadenopathy, I have swollen lymph nodes. That's oftentimes more Hashimoto's or immune driven versus just someone that's not producing enough thyroid hormone for many different reasons. Okay, when we look at the kind of classification of them, they're totally different. So that is another myth, that Synthroid fixes Hashimoto's. What I would say is Synthroid, Armor, all of the things out there I wouldn't even say fix because that's really not true. They modulate the hormone systems when someone has Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. If you're not hypothyroid, where your hormones aren't low, the pharmaceuticals don't do much for people. And people that are dealing with this know that. They're like, I'm living it. I know that. I don't feel different from this. Vegetable chips are like eating vegetables. Come again? Vegetable chips are basically like eating vegetables. You guys, these are things that I hear in practice. I'm working with people and I hear this and I think to myself, what? Vegetable chips are not like eating vegetables. So buying those crunchy things that are filled with sunflower oil, safflower oil, canola oil, and it looks like a colored version of the vegetable, like those those green bean snap peas. You're not getting green beans. In a lot of vegetables, especially green ones, you have lots of phytonutrients, lots of different chemicals that can help support us. DIM, diindolylmethane, 3-indocarbinol, phytonutrients, resveratrol, polyphenols, anthocyanins, all these compounds. We don't have to go into it, but all of these really medicinal healing compounds, those are not in your man-made vegetable chip, okay? It's kind of like people that are like, ketchup is tomatoes. Most often, ketchup is high fructose corn syrup with sugar. Do not be fooled. Do not be fooled. And let's talk about weight loss being willpower. A lot of times when I'm working with people, they have a lot of guilt and feel very frustrated around the fact that they're struggling to not honor their commitment to say, I don't want to eat that. I'm not going to eat that. They're frustrated. They're like, I said I wasn't going to do that thing today, and what did I do? Please, 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 it is not about willpower. Yes, you have to make conscious choices and be mindful of what you're doing. And with that being said, sometimes our chemistry is so skewed that willpower fails every time. So when you're trying to diet and you have dysfunction, you have inflammation, you have thyroid dysfunction, you have hormonal imbalances, you have painful periods, you have cytokine storms, what's going to end up happening is that it doesn't really matter your willpower when your pancreas is spewing insulin and looking for glucose. And so I really want you guys to be compassionate that if you're trying to change your chemistry and your body composition, look at your chemistry, because it's not just willpower. It's not, oh my gosh, I just can't stop myself. What happens often is that the hormones that are shifted in our body can make changes to our leptin and our ghrelin, and they can skew our satiety signals, or feeling hungry or feeling full. For example, diabetics, they don't often feel full as easily. They need more carb. They need more carb. When you say, okay, I want you to eat protein and vegetables, they're going to say, but I'm still hungry. I only get full off of carbohydrates. What's happening is the body isn't adapted to certain compounds. We have to undergo fat adaptation. We have to undergo switching the profile of fuel sources and allowing that shift to happen. And when we do that, there's a massive shift to our gut flora, our microbiome changes as well. There's like a hormonal cascade that happens. So I just want you guys to be mindful of that. If you're struggling with nutrition, if you're struggling with your body composition, you're saying, I'm so frustrated, I just feel like I can't stop eating, or I just can't stop with the cravings. I'm craving salt, I'm craving sugar, I'm eating tons of things. Please know that there's likely something driving that process in the background. There could be some problems with the pancreas. There could be problems with your metabolism or your thyroid. There could be problems with leaky gut. There might be problems that you're actually not absorbing and processing your nutrition, so you're not getting the signals. So the body says, do it again. I didn't get the signals. There's a lot of mechanisms that go into kind of the connection between our brain and our gut. And if that's a little bit skewed, it can actually change how we feel in terms of satiation. And it can also make us feel like we're broken or something is wrong with us. We don't have willpower. Why can that person just do it? It's not about that stuff. It's really about looking at all of the tissues to say, what's driving this? For example, when someone has high activation of cortisol production, they're craving salt. because the adrenal glands are governing mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids. Basically, there's a little bit of pressure, fluid balance that happens through the adrenal gland. And if someone's having problems with their adrenals, that could be why they're craving salt. Their sodium metabolism is a little bit skewed because of dysfunction. So there's many things that happen when someone's saying, I'm just craving things and I don't know why and I feel frustrated. Please, please, please be compassionate. Work with someone. Don't blame yourself. It doesn't serve you. It's not going to help you to learn what's actually going on in terms of your health. So those are really going to be some of the top myths for now. I would like to know your myth. If you guys have anything that you've been taught or told and you're not sure if it's actually a myth or you're like, I've been practicing this thing, please let me know. I want to make a little side note as well. The food pyramid that we know, that we all grew up with when we were younger, should be flipped upside down. It hasn't been changed in so many years. And it really hasn't kept up with time in terms of how our food and our food handling process have shifted. So they recommend have dairy, have milk. You need your calcium, you need to have milk. Please don't be having cow's milk. Please don't be consuming cow's milk. It's extremely inflammatory, okay? So be mindful that when you hear things, they might be really primitive and archaic, and we haven't come a long way. Truthfully, we really haven't changed things a lot from a nutritional perspective in a long time. So drop your myths down below. I'm really curious to know if you guys have something that you're like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this forever and I don't know if it's true or not. I would love to hear what that is. We'll talk a little bit about that maybe in another video. And as always, you guys, if you're liking this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. That helps me know that you guys are enjoying this so that I can keep kind of creating things that are supportive. And as always, I am on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. If you'd like to connect, I spend most of my time there. And that's really it. So I hope you guys found this video helpful to some capacity, and I'll see you in the next one.